Thank you. So I'm an investor, and my goals are financial independence. And I've been investing in real estate, and lately I've been investing in commodities and commodities futures. And commodities futures have a lot of charts and graphs and indicators that you use to try to tell whether the price is going to go up or the price is going to go down. And
does everyone have access to these charts?
Yes, everyone has access to these charts.
People should be doing better then.
Yeah, exactly. So, like this person here. So we all have access to these charts, and you can look at these charts and make a good case that it's going to go up or that it's going to go down. So I thought you might be a good person to ask for a little bit of help in figuring out whether the charts are going to go up or down.
Yes.
Thank you.
Well, the reason we're mocking your charts is because indicators that are outside of you can't possibly give you the data or feedback that the guidance that is coming forth from within you will give you. And so when you say, which would benefit you more? In other words, do you find that at some times you would be benefited more if they go up, and at other times you would be benefited if they go down?
Yes, if I'm betting that they're going to go up, then I'm benefiting more if they go up.
And what action would you offer if you were betting that they were going to go up?
The action I would offer would be calling my broker and purchasing options or futures.
And if you were to offer that action in an environment of ignorance where you're just guessing, then what happens?
I probably have a 50-50 shot.
And you think it's that good?
I'm not sure.
And if you were to look down the road a little ways at what you want for your financial future.
Yes.
And if you were to create a scenario in your mind and fill it in with enough detail that it is really getting your juices flowing.
Right.
And if in doing so, you recognize that all that high-flying emotion that you get in your visualization means that you're not bucking the current, that all of the time that you were trading and winning and trading and losing and trading and winning and trading and losing, that you were creating a financial escrow that is yours, that has your name on it, that source is tending to and calling you towards. So as you realize that your experience in the market and otherwise, but in the financial world, that your experience has caused you to create something that is in the process of becoming, and that in this moment, as you are visualizing down the road, that your visualization isn't what is now making it happen, because it was your life experience that made it happen in terms of vibrational escrow. In other words, do you get it that when you ask, that's when it's done? Or do you still think it's not done till it ends up in your bank account? Which is it? Do you think Fred's done? Do you think that you've done your work on Fred and Fred is done? Or do you think that work is still being done? This is an important question, because if you get it that Fred's already in escrow, and that the financial independence that you're seeking, and more, just more than independence from not enoughness, financial independence means independence relative to money, relative to all things. I now make all of my decisions based upon other factors other than what it costs. In other words, I'm independent of that lackful vibration. I'm independent of any restriction relative to dollars. Whatever my mind can conceive, my dollars are there to support. That's financial independence, you see.
Right.
And so as you realize that that financial independence is already there for you, it's done, and that your visualization isn't now what's making it done, your visualization is now what lines you up with it, then we say, stop reading those charts. Because those charts go contrary to your desire often, and when they do and you believe them, you turn and buck the current, and you disallow yourself from moving as swiftly as you could toward what you are wanting.
Right.
You see. This whole day today, we really like how it is sharpening and shaping and coming into focus for so many of you. Because what we're really talking about, and it is a question that was so articulately asked just a little bit ago, how do I know what to do from where I am? And we say, do what you need to do, but don't let your emphasis be upon anything that you're doing. Let your emphasis be upon the imagination that you're using as you look just slightly down the road, in order to assist yourself in rendezvousing with what's already done in vibrational escrow. We get a little carried away in our intensity as we are trying to help you to know it's done and it's there and it's yours. You keep behaving as if it's not done and it's not there and it's not yours, when it is done and it is there and it is yours. And we understand when it isn't in your bank account that it feels like it's not yours, but it's yours. It's yours. No one else can take it away. It's yours. What you've dreamed is there for you, you see. Now you just have to find some way of letting yourself get there to where it is, which means whatever you have to do that makes you feel better. So if you read the chart and the chart gives an indication and it makes you feel uncomfortable with what you're doing, then do something different until you come into alignment. In other words, do whatever it takes to get into alignment, which means do whatever it takes to feel better. Do whatever it takes to feel better. But while you're doing, start thinking more long range. And what you will begin to discover is you'll get an idea for something that will be so compelling that you won't care what the chart says. Your impulse will be so strong. And haven't you noticed that when the odds are really not in your favor and you're right, you win bigger?
Yes.
And so what do we just say with that? Let's really let's get all of the juice out of that one.
Yeah.
So if the odds are not in your favor, meaning nothing that you could do in terms of action is going to net you any real result, but you can feel there's a stronger call. There's a stronger call of source. And so you're listening to this call rather than reading that chart. You're listening to this call because this call is over there where what you want is, you see. And when you listen to that call, you make the right decision over and over and over and over and over again.
So part of my source energy knows the answers to these questions.
Knows what you want and knows where what you want is and when you are most likely to rendezvous with it. And will give you the impulse. And when you think about what we said as we first began here today, about co-creating is always about rendezvousing. And then you say, but this is a market that is moving all around. And we say, and so your quest is to rendezvous with it at the right time? So how would anybody ever learn the market? You don't. That's why no one writes a book that everyone can read and then everybody can win. That's why. It's an intuitive thing, you see. And the way you intuitively understand what's best for you to do, you, in relationship to your vibrational escrow, you vibe it out. You go with the flow of it.
You go where?
You go with the flow of it.
Right.
So if you were to call us nearly every day, don't, but if you were, well, you can call us, just leave Esther out of it.
Okay.
If you were to call us every day relative to the same question, you'd get different answers depending upon what's happening, depending upon all of the things that are fluctuating. That's how good source energy is. That's what we meant earlier when we say some journeys are so easy to quantify. But other journeys are impossible to quantify when you're trying to use physical statistics. But when you are using the guidance system that makes every journey quantifiable, but before you can use your guidance system, you have to have a few things in place. First, you have to trust that your source energy knows not only what you want, but is where what you want is. You have to accept that. You have to accept that this is already done. Is that hard for you to accept? It is for most physical humans. When someone has cancer and we say, your wellness has already been achieved, that's hard for them to accept because they're not looking at the vibrational escrow. They're not looking at the vibrational essence which always precedes all manifestation. They're looking at the current manifestation and proclaiming statistics and truth and facts and x-rays and laws and doctors are telling me that what is different than what I want to be. And we say, you got to get loose of that. You've got to realize that everything that is now manifested was at one time only a thought form in vibrational escrow. And if you can get fixated on vibrational vibrational escrow, then everything that you want as far as you feel right now is, and when it feels right now like it is, then it has to be really fast.
And what does that look like, that our source energy already is what we're desiring?
What we mean by that is a person who is sick and source energy, the larger part of that person is well, and the source energy part of that person feels well and is well and embraces wellness and speaks only, vibrates only, thinks only, radiates only, oozes only wellness. Then when that person is reaching for the feeling of source, then they're reaching always toward wellness, reaching always toward wellness, reaching always toward wellness. And when you're reaching always toward wellness, then wellness in time, in a buffer of time, must be yours.
Because wellness is source. So
Because-
reaching toward wellness, you're reaching toward source.
Yes, reaching toward the expanded version of you. So you have to understand that through all that you've been living, we're speaking specifically of your financial enterprises, your stock market enterprises, your futures enterprises, as you have been contemplating it and thinking about it and playing within it and winning and losing and wanting to understand it. You have launched so many rockets of desire that your vibrational escrow relative to that is active and big and satisfying and possible and there for you. But you got to feel your way to it. And anything that feels like struggle is going in opposite direction. So when you feel confused, when you feel not sure, when you feel disappointed, when you feel afraid, when you feel uneasy, that means you haven't let go of control and you're not letting the stream take you. And that's why we say you have to develop this attitude of trust. And it doesn't come easily. You have to sort of teach it to yourself through trial and error. You have to think and feel and think and feel and think and feel. And then notice what that thought and feeling is netting you in terms of manifestation.
Right. Well, there's that beauty of feeling that inspiration and knowing that I'm inspired and I went there and it really worked well. And then there's the flip side of it, which is the frustration of the lack of the inspiration.
But the thing that we want you to realize is that that flip side and lack of inspiration is only a choice of a thought that you're making. This is the thing that we want you to try to separate your action journey, which is what I do today, from your inspired journey, from your vibrational journey. That's what Esther finally got when they were 3 hours from being where they would have to face whether the car would hook up or not. They were 3 hours from it. And there was a strong likelihood that it was going to give them trouble because it had been giving them trouble. The last several times they've hooked it up, it hasn't been going in easily. And so their belief based on fact and based upon reality gave them the expectation that it probably wasn't going to go all that well. But suddenly Esther realized that that expectation was still something that was about a future experience. And she had 3 hours that she could dream differently. Now, she might dream differently for 3 hours and Jerry might still have to crawl under the car. But at least during those 3 hours, she dreamed differently. And what she set up beyond that manifestation is different now because of those 3 hours she dreamed than if she had for those 3 hours faced reality. You see what we're getting at? Can you feel the difference? When you get out there in advance, when you start allowing yourself to rendezvous out there in advance, rather than right now this red hot minute where I've got to deal with what I've got to deal with, that's where all of your power is, you see. When your toe is throbbing, it's harder to think about a healthy foot. But if between the throbs you can get a glimpse, between the throbs you can get a glimpse, between the throbs you can get a glimpse, it will throb less in time. And the less it throbs, the easier it is to imagine not only a healthy foot, but a healthy everything, you see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see for myself that I always want to act a little bit too soon instead of letting it manifest a little bit more.
Well, your impatience could be described as eagerness, but more often what we see in impatient impulses like that is a belief, an unwarranted belief in the power of action, and a misunderstanding of the leverage of advanced thought.
A misunderstanding of the leverage of advanced thought.
Oh, there is so much power in imagination. There's so much power in finding a picture in your mind's eye that makes your heart sing, and then just staying with it and milking it and milking it and milking it, letting that be the focus of attention that your airtime, your current projection of thought, your current radiation of your vibration, your current radiation of your vibration that law of attraction is responding to. In other words, when you let the thought that you have conjured be more frequent than the reality that you are observing, now you are a powerful creator. Because someone who just observes what is, just radiates what is, and law of attraction responds to what is and gives them more of what is, and then they say, my life doesn't change. We say, your life can't change if you're only observing. You've got to get out there in advance of what is and start imagining in more of a free-flowing way. And when you do, everything shakes loose and you begin to receive evidence, manifestation of what you've been asking for. Leverage in thought. Not much power in action.
So leverage.
And think about what we've talked about here today. Our friend sees a rabbit and does everything he can think of doing in this moment to keep from running over it, but still runs over it because action is limited. You're going to live out the results of the energy that you flowed before. So what are we saying? So you flowed it and now you're living it. And if you're just observing what you're living, then you're flowing more that you're living and flowing more that you're living and flowing more that you're living. But if you flowed it and now you're living it, but you're wise enough not to let what you're living get your undivided attention, and you selectively sift from what you're living the parts you like and fill in the details with imagination, now you flowed it and you're living it, but you're modifying it and you're flowing it. And you're modifying it and you're flowing it and you're modifying it and you're flowing it. And now you're living differently. Now you're living differently. And you're modifying it and you're flowing it, but you're living differently.
Right.
Just gets better and better and better and better and better.
And then you can clear the rabbits 500 yards
You
down the road.
can clear everything out of your path. You can clear everything that you do not want. But here's the tricky thing. When you try to clear something from your path, you put it right in your path. Because you're focused upon that thing you wanted to get rid of. So your imagination, when you base it upon the way you feel, is about identifying and then locking on to the signal of what makes you feel good.
Right.
And as you do that, because everything that's in your vibrational escrow, the source is tending to, is that stuff that you want. It's all that downstream.
So you can have negative or positive things in your vibrational escrow.
Whatever
you're creating.
Whatever you've been thinking about is there, but the difference between the things that are there that you want and the things that are there that you don't want is that Source, who is the vibrational embodiment or disembodiment, if you will, the vibrational essence of everything that you want, is there calling you only toward that. So positive emotion always means you're moving toward what life has caused you to become, what life has caused you to ask for.